working right now. It's unloading a container. Now, container shipping itself is fairly recent invention. It was invented in the late 1950s. It was pretty much codified or made universal in the 1960s by the United Nations. It's one of the very few things we've ever agreed on en masse and quickly was how to get stuff from one place to another. Now, when container shipping was started, the average shipping container was 20 feet long. Today, your average shipping container is 40 feet long. But when it was started, they were 20 feet long. So the capacity of any container ship is measured in a unit called a TEU, or 20-foot equivalent unit. Now, this vessel we're going by now, it has a TEU capacity of 10,000 containers. It's also 1,150 feet long. So with a TEU capacity of 10,000, that means it can hold 5,000 of these regular size shipping containers that we can see right now as we're going by. Also, at 1,150 feet, this vessel, if we were to stand it on its stern with its bow pointed to the sky, would be almost 200 feet taller than the tallest building in Seattle, which is the Columbia Center 967. Now, container shipping, like I said, invented in the 1950s. Malcolm McLaren started, he was a gentleman who owned a shipping company, trucking company specifically, and he got tired of waiting for his trucks to get unloaded at ports because prior to container shipping, how a vessel was loaded is it was loaded by hand. Every box, bag, net full of stuff, barrel, all had to be brought onto the vessel by a dock worker and put in a very specific place to maintain stability of the vessel while it was underway. For a bit of comparison, these large vessels that we're going by now can be unloaded, loaded, and back out to sea in 72 hours. Previous to container shipping, a vessel the size of the one that we're on currently would take about a week to properly load if we were shipping instead of carrying passengers. So a vast difference in the amount of stuff that can get carried easily. Now the crane operators here, some of the most skilled operators, and it's one of the most skilled positions here in the Longshoremen's Union. In order to be a crane operator, you have to be a member of the union for at least 6 years, be well qualified, and be just a little bit lucky. Positions don't come up very often, so when they do, every qualified applicant throws their application in. They get so many applicants, in fact, that they kind of have to have a lottery to see who actually gets picked for their interviews. Now, not only do you have to be lucky, you have to be very good with heights, obviously, because you're working at least 200 feet off the ground. So there's a bit of an urban legend. Longshoremen won't tell us if it's true or not, but they also don't tell us it's completely false. And if you look over off our port or left-hand side, you can see one of the cranes there. He's actually waving to us with the grabbers. They like to say hi when they're out and about. It's so much fun to watch them work and do their stuff. So the legend is, if you get chosen for an interview, you have to do that interview at the top of the crane. And I'm not talking about in the glass box where they work. I'm talking up at the very top of the arch that all of the support wires go through, go up and over. See, the stairway runs all the way up to there. You want to make sure you can handle heights and pressure at the same time. Again, it's never been proven true, but on the other question, do any of them ever fall off of those vessels? And unfortunately, the answer is yes. About 1,500 containers yearly, globally, will fall off the vessels as due almost entirely to very rough seas and incredibly bad weather. Now, it sounds like a good chunk, and it's not. It is, but it represents less than 1/1000th of 1% of all containers that are shipped in the course of a year. Now, the container falls off a ship, they have no way to get it, so they just kind of leave it and let it sink or float on. But occasionally something very interesting will happen.